I'm give you the mic.
Alright, so if you guys actually really, I don't mind as long as you just like, so, oh yeah, well I'm going to tell them first because they're right next to the props. Okay. If you really want, you could actually kind of pick them up, just don't take them from the table. But, you know, those are real metal props, real foam,
Leather.
Don't wear it, yeah, real leather. The sword is actually really safe, just don't hit anybody with it because I actually make them safe. But I just don't want to, someone to be like, oh, you hit me. But, I'm here for the prop. I'm Darian Spider of the Colony Jock cosplay. I am the prop guy.
Don't go too crazy. You haven't had it here yet.
I know. I'm going to say it again.
But the gold people get a special treat.
The gold people get a special treat. That's what they told me to say. They really did. It's like they get a special treat.
And their special treat is they have to listen to you say everything again? Doesn't sound like a special treat to me.
That's a shoulder.
That's why it's not.
We had the cosplay show last night? Okay. I wore that outfit yesterday, so.
Come on in. Come on in.
Fill in all the seats. Please fill in all the seats. All of them. We'd like to get started, so if you guys could be quick, that'd be super sweet. The faster you get your butt in a chair, the faster we can tell you how to build that sword. Yeah. Come on, everybody, fill in all the seats, all the seats. Can you guys come forward? There's still empty chairs in the front. We need every single chair full. There's more people in the hallway that will fit than will fit in this room. So the quicker you get into the chairs, the quicker we can get started. None of you guys were ever in the military, were you? Seriously. Civilians need to understand moving with a sense of urgency. Are there any veterans in this room or active duty members? You play for I used to live in Hawaii. Does that count?
Do you guys want a picture sitting at your table?
I can't sit in the middle.
Let's do the tag. You guys want to tag? For the middle? Okay. I'll take a picture.
Come on, everybody, please fill in all the seats, all the seats, all the seats as quick as you can, and we'll get started. I know we're running late. There's a lot of people in the hallway.
Once you guys fill up with a step chair,
Fill in all the seats, everybody. If you're like towards the front, does anyone towards the front have an empty seat next to them? Anybody raise your hand to get an empty seat? No? Well, there's probably not room to put anyone else there.
I can't walk the nose fire.
Yeah, I can't walk the walkway.
Fire. Fire safety.
I don't know if they'll let us do that because of fire code capacity.
What about these?
Okay. Are there any available seats up there? This is a full panel. Are there any
I really
available
want to
seats?
be a panelist.
There's just one over there. Can we sit people on the floor up here? Or is that against the rules? It's not listening.
It said that they couldn't have standing or sitting.
Okay.
They can only have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, for the people that are still outside, can you go run cards to them?
Yeah.
And then say you'll follow us and stuff like that.
Okay, do that.
Thank you, Kat.
Do your turn.
Hey, everybody, smile. It's Joe's first panel.
Yeah, it is my first panel. Please forgive me if I mess up or misspeak or, just ramble on.
Okay, so are we full now?
Are we full now?
Door guy? Nice volunteer man?
Guy in light green shirt.
What?
I don't know. I'm just trying to get attention.
Well, you have the intro.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call that good and we're gonna get started because I know y'all have been waiting a really long time. Hi everybody, I'm the Queen of Space.
I'm Darian's brother.
And we're Colony Drop Cosplay. This is our first year as a cosplay guest at San Japan. We were judges for the cosplay show last night. If you were here last year, we won Best in Show in the cosplay show last year with the metal Dynasty Warriors armor. Woo! And most of that was thanks to that guy. We're a two-person team, and I do all the sewing, and he does all the prop building. And I don't think either of us could be here without the other. His prop building is really amazing. And this is his first panel. Like I said, he's never given a panel in his life. So, like, be really patient with us. But he's got a lot to share with you and a lot to teach you. And we also have business cards running around. If you didn't get one earlier and you want one before you leave, let us know. We post pictures to our build blog and Facebook of how we make all our props and costumes. So if you want to see how these things are actually done, you can actually look at more pictures afterwards. And I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Darian.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for showing up to my panel. I'm very happy to be here. I'm pretty sure that everyone probably doesn't know this as of yet. I have been a LARPer for the last 17 years or so. I've been building props and armor and foam weapons for the last 10, 12 years or with that. So, I'd like to at least start off by talking about picking the right props for your costumes and how to basically figure out what type of mediums you like to use for that. There are a lot of mediums, especially when it comes to armoring. I am an armorer myself. I'm basically a mid-level apprentice type armorer to a LARP group. And they do some amazing stuff, and I am actually really honored to have this amount of stuff already. And they're impressed with me, and I'm impressed with me. I hope you guys are impressed with me. So let me start talking about that. So I do metal armor traditionally. I actually go out and buy metal, sheets of metal. Usually it's model gauge steel, in thin, everything from the 14 gauge steel to 20 gauge steel. And that comes in 4x8 sheets from a metal place called Westbrook Metals. I know there's one in San Antonio and one in Austin, but there's a lot of these sort of metal places that you can get those types of metals from. I said before, I am a traditionalist, which means I have a wooden log with a hole in it and a hammer and my arm to make dish stuff. And can someone hold up the pauldron? No, the pauldron.
Pauldron.
I'm going to use a lot of fancy words like pauldrons, sabatons. If you don't understand, at least I'll try to explain a little bit more. That's a shoulder piece.
Question? Push your microphone a bit closer to your mouth.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So that is actually a pauldron, and I have dished the sides of it to actually make the round curvature over my wooden log with a hole in it. It took me probably about a month, but that's just me being lazy. I could probably do it in about a week if I really tried it. You know, it hurts, but it's cool. I do prefer metal over any other stuff. I am working with war. I'm going to start working with Warbla and stuff, stuff like that, because there's some really complicated stuff I can't do with metal because it's just unforgiving in some aspects and very forgiving in others. I like metal for armor cosplay because it shines. You can polish the heck out of it. You really can, and it really shines. And that's really where our Dynasty Warrior stuff, I felt, was what made it really well done. Is because we walked on that stage and we went, wham.
You could see
your
reflection.
Yeah, you can see the reflection in her plate. Another thing, since this is an armoring panel too, I will say there's only one type of mail, and that is chain mail. There is no plate mail, there is no scale mail, there is no ring mail. Mail is only in chain, period. It's just plate, armor, ring armor, and scale armor. If you take anything back, my mentor would kick my butt if I didn't say that. He agreed. Yeah. So, anywho, she decided to wanted to do Haman Karn. So for our judges, for judging and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to do that, but we started out with a crown, and I used a metal I never used before, and that is brass. I've never used brass before. I loved it. And again, it's choosing the right mediums for what you need. You know, it's gold. I could have easily painted onto a Warblow for this type of shininess, but it doesn't hold shape in my mind. So I decided I was going to use brass. I can't weld brass, and I can weld actually, but so I decided to braze it. So, those are 3 individual pieces raised together and Chicago screwed together.
I'll walk down so you guys can see it.
So, and again, I use my same log, and I use my same hammers, and I'm beating the heck out of all this metal in the middle of almost in the middle of the night, and scaring the neighbors. It was really loud. Metalworking is really loud. So, that was my particular choice for Herman Karn. I, on the other hand, did Romberall for her other side, and Kat, can you grab her belt? I decided to use leather instead of metal for her belt buckle. And I went and painted it, and I did some gradient paint on it. Again, it's choosing the right materials for the right process. I knew since this was going to be on the midsection, you're going to bend down. Metal hurts when you bend on it. It really does. So I decided to make leather. And it is layered leather. I almost tooled it, actually, which is taking, cutting into the leather and actually wetting it down and beating lines into it. I also made the metal buckle that actually goes into it. I fire hardened the aperture so they wouldn't go. I should have made you wear the wig. So, and these are just individual choices. And every time we come up with a cosplay, or I come up with a cosplay that I want to do, I literally sit on the floor in either my living room or her living room, and I'm like, how will we do this? What do we do? And then we start going through the list of materials that we can do this out of. Either be it wood, let's see if I have it actually.
I think we start with cardboard as your first option because it's cheapest.
So picking the right costumes.
Wood, foam, metal, plastic. In
Yes.
that order is usually how we go.
Yeah.
Can we make it out of cardboard? Our answer is no. Yeah. We usually go through the order when we're going to build a prop, and we go cardboard first because that's cheap and easy, right? But I mean, it doesn't look that great. But you can always go cardboard, foam, wood, metal, plastic. And as you go through that list, it gets more and more complicated on how things go together. So, cardboard being the simplest and the thermoplastics being the most complicated.
The last one we talk about is magic. The last one is magic, because sometimes you're just like, how does that defy gravity? I don't understand that.
Don't forget our magical ability to will metal into shape.
Oh yes, will metal into shape is our actual build blog. So if anybody want to write that down, will metal into shape.
willmetalintoshape.tumblr.com, but there's a link from it on the other Tumblr.
So we did, she said before, we did Dynasty Warriors, and that was another choice. I was like, I do metal armor. I made her breastplate. Form, shape, breastplate, again, log, hammer. Planishing, which is or gouging, which is making round when you dish, you make the actual dish and it's really lumpy, and then you turn it around to put it on a rounded metal spike, and you take this little square hammer and you basically take the bumps out of it and make it smooth again in that round shape, and that's planishing or gouging.
Beat the bumps back.
Yeah, it looks like cottage cheese actually. Whenever you first do the dishing, like literally cottage cheese. I put it up to her front, and it was just like, that's not flattering at all. Not flattering at all. And then she did a little bit of her own gouging on her stuff, and I was really impressed with that. And then I also do take the gouging hammer and all that, and I bend edges in to get almost that Mandalore bend into the side of the armor, and it looks really good and it looks really finished, and I love that. I don't actually like rolling metal seams because it's actually kind of hard and difficult to do if you don't know exactly what you're doing, and then even if you do, it's really hard. So again, every choice we make starts with cardboard. I particularly don't like cardboard, but I will use it when I need it.
We used it up by Trixie Wand.
Yes, we did. We used it on Trixie Wand.
Yeah, that was.
Because I wasn't going to make that star out of metal.
Yeah.
So, again, it's just choosing the right thing for the right thing. Look at your reference pictures. Definitely look at your reference pictures. See what they do with it, how big it is. Like, I will reference, if the character that I'm making is actually shorter than I am, I will actually reference how tall their props are to them. I made a Rip Van Winkle gun for Helsing, which the girl was about maybe this tall.
No, the girl was short.
Oh, shorter? Okay, well, I think she's that.
Tabitha's shorter than I am. Tabitha's about this tall.
Yeah, the girl was about this tall, and Rip Van Winkle is probably approximately about my height, really slender. But the gun goes out about a foot over her head. So I went proportionally, brought it down, and then took a actual real world, Kentucky long rifle. And I made the stock like you would actually make a Kentucky long rifle stock out of wood. I went and, did all the drilling for it. I just didn't put any, trigger actions or any flash pans or anything like that. And I made real metal bandings. I used PVC for the barrel, and I gradient painted that. It looked fantastic in my mind. I went and stained it all, and it looked really cool. And it was still a foot ahead of my model, or who was wielding it.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot because Joe and I's size difference. I'm pretty tall for a girl. I'm 5'7", and you're 6'4". And like currently, I'm cosplaying an 8-year-old little boy, and he's playing an adult. We do this a lot, and you can see with the Helsing costumes that we do as well. Proportion is such an important thing when it comes to props. Proportion to your body. If the character has a 9-foot-long sword, but you're only 5 feet tall, and the character is 6 foot tall. If you make a 9-foot-long sword, it's going to look weird.
Yeah,
it's the wrong proportion.
Yeah.
You need to make sure your proportions stay correct all over the costume and are correct to your body and your costume.
Okay. I think that's it for that.
Just because we've had a lot of discussions about proportion. Like with the cannon, which isn't up there, the Harkonnen cannon for Saris, we originally made the gun 14 feet long, thinking that was appropriate. And
it was 14 feet long.
Yeah, it is a 14-foot-long gun. But when I was holding it, it doesn't look anything like the way it looks in the anime. So we got pictures of Walter holding it, Sarah's holding it, people holding the cannon, and saw how much bigger it is than them, and then applied that to our bodies and said, okay, if I am going to be the stand-in for Sarah's size, I need to make the gun this much taller than my person, screw the numbers. And then it looked really, really great, because it's still a 9-foot-long gun, but we took 5 feet off of it.
It actually couldn't stand up in a garage at all. I could not stand it. I had to literally walk it out. But yeah, it started out as a 14-foot-long cannon, and it went. Yeah, we took out the 5 feet. It looked so much better. And again, I did wood stock for that because I wanted the strength of having a wood stock, because I knew I was going to have to support all this weight going outwards from the actual prop model, which is my partner. She was actually, I told her not to do this at the beginning, because it is a 9-foot cannon. It probably weighs about 50 pounds.
Do you have a picture of the cannon?
No, I just got I couldn't find a good picture of it, I'm sorry.
Dude, it's on our Facebook.
Here, hold
on, keep talking about
okay, yeah, you get pictures. So, it was a 9-foot cannon, and it weighs about 50 pounds. And there's an internal support structure so it doesn't bend forward, so that adds even more weight. So, I told her not to lift it like she would holding it up. I told her not to. I told her not to, but she did it anyways.
I did.
And when she did it, I was amazed.
No, we survived the show. It cracked out during the
while we were celebrating our award for it, you picked it up for a picture, and then the buttstock.
I squeezed it too hard.
Popped back out, and I actually fixed that the next day over.
Yeah.
Like I completely redid the stock back end of it. It looks like it never broke ever. And that's usually what I tell her when I break armors and stuff.
Can you let Kat back in, please?
When she breaks armor or props or something like that, my general go-to is I can fix it. I can definitely fix it. So we're going to talk now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the foam weaponry. Now, I'm a LARPer, and so I am absolutely 100% wanting 100% safe in my mind of foam weaponry. I do foreign blade work, which. Can you hold up the Integra sword? Yeah. This is an Integra sword for Helsing that I made for one of our friends. It's actually made out of gray foam, a fiberglass core, and some PVC for the handle. And I have put rubberized spray from top to bottom, probably about 3 or 4 coats, and then spray paint this, the other, some other stuff that, for gradients and, and I sealed it. And it is light, and you can actually hit somebody with it if you had to, if you wanted to. Don't do it at a con. Seriously, don't do it at a con. But it's like, it's good for stage fighting. It really is. For our Dynasty Wars, I made a spear, and I made her size. And we actually did some fighting, and I don't have to worry. When I make weapons like that, I don't have to worry about them breaking for the most part. Like it's like some people's weapons just fall apart because they can't take the impact. Even the small little impact for just demo stage fighting. But these weapons can.
I hit you so hard it made your scales sing on stage.
Yeah.
On purpose. These
Yeah,
the outfits from last year.
Yeah, and we actually fought on stage. I mean, it was all demo fighting. But I actually hit her. That's actually real leather I made for her. She did all the painting on it, which is amazing. But it adds to the performance in my mind. If I can physically touch somebody with my weapon with a little bit of impact, it makes it look so much better for stage.
Yeah, those size were that solid gray foam, the same gray foam that sword is made out of. Those size were solid gray foam with a PVC core, right? I think you already said that.
Just to note, the gray foam, there's a place in town in San Antonio and in Austin called Polyplastics, and you can place orders for like big rolls of that foam.
Yeah, you definitely get the big rolls of the foam. There's other places you can get that type of foam. There's the gray, blue camp pad? People have seen that and used it for armoring pieces and stuff like that. I actually use that for my weaponry.
I think it's a little rough, personally. I don't like the finish on the blue foam.
Well, I use it now as an interior thing. I like my gray foam for my exteriors now. I also use this thin white foam, which is a closed cell white foam. I only know one place to get it, and they are very particular who gets it. So I can't actually say where I get it. It's called Valara, if you want to look it up. If you want to look up Valara, that's the actual name of the foam. And it usually comes in these very thin, less than a quarter inch thin sheets. It's basically craft foam, but it's got a special quality to it. And back in the day, we called it God foam because it softened the more it took impact. Instead of breaking down, it actually softened up. So we really like it for a lot of our finishing stuff because it's soft, it's easy, pliable, and there's a lot bigger sheets than regular craft foam. So I can make full decorative things without having to make seams and stuff like that. So any questions on the actual weapon fighting?
Weapon building.
Foam, have you checked with people that put headliners in cars?
I actually haven't. It's something I probably.
I know this one.
Yeah, you can get it in big rolls from them.
A headliner, you can get a headliner at Hancock Fabrics.
No, this is the actual stuff that they put in cars.
Yes, you can buy it at Hancock Fabrics. I worked at 2 of them. They sell it in the back in the foam section. In multiple colors and thicknesses too. I don't like it very much, but I don't like the super squishy foam for prop building because it's just too squishy. So when you paint it, the paint just comes right off.
Yeah, again, Lord Green told me to use open cell foam, open couch foam. It doesn't work for cosplay. It really doesn't. It doesn't hold paint. It doesn't hold edges. It just doesn't look right. So
it's great for lots of things for cosplay, but not for the things we're talking about.
Yeah, for padding of suits and stuff like that.
Yeah, those fursuits you gotta have that stuff.
Yeah, for the fursuits, you definitely.
Anyways, continue on.
So, again, it's choosing the right props, choosing the right things. I particularly chose Integra sword when I got told, hey, we're gonna have an Integra, because everyone does the gun. No one ever does the sword. And I actually researched which sword, because both me and her thought it was a rapier. Absolutely thought it was a rapier that she used but it's actually a cavalry sword. So do research whenever you do, if you're not sure exactly what it is, try to Google it, or look at it, go to the library and look it up for it. So, yeah, those axes were amazing.
Those axes are made out of the gray foam as well that he shaped.
Yeah.
And the spikes on his wristband.
Yeah, sandpaper and a grinder and some time.
Okay.
Okay.
What's next?
Well, I want to actually talk a little bit more about armor. I talked about at the beginning of this thing. I'm going to tell you where I get my armoring patterns. Pattern your stuff, especially if you're going to work with metal.
Build a mock-up.
Build a mock-up.
Oh my God, build a mock-up.
Yeah, build a mock-up. You try to use something, material that's closely resembles the stiffness of the material you're going to be using. And so it's hard with metal or leather. Leather is the same way. Leather is the exact same way. Build a mock-up. Like, it saves me hours, if not days, if I build a mock-up first. And I learned that through doing her Dynasty Warriors, because I didn't really build the mock-up first.
Yeah, but I did for all the flanging, and that's why the flanging came out perfect.
So, build a mock-up. I use cardboard for
There's
that.
one more open seat up here. If anyone could tell the door guy, there's another open seat up here.
Ooh, more people.
I just know the line is huge, so.
So,
Okay. Well, I would too. Are you leaving, Glow Cloud? Will you let someone else know so they can take your seat? Thank you.
sorry, I'm being a little monotone. I'm sorry. Okay. So, with the armoring patterns, and I keep telling this to everybody, ask me where I get my ideas from, or where the armoring comes from. I go to Armoring Archive, at armoringarchive.org. That's where I go. It's basically a giant forum with lots of pictures of other people's patterns from actual armor pieces from the 13th, 14th, and 15th centuries. And that's part of the research part of it too, because Dynasty Wars, hers was actually from a European style of plate.
Despite the fact that the game takes place in China.
Yeah, because I literally pulled up the patterning for it, and I'm like, that's exactly what it is. I just have to cut it right there. That's it. You know, it's like, I think it's the late 13th century where I got that actual pattern from, and I modified it from that 13th century armoring pattern. My pattern were scales, scale mail, and that actually was, sorry, I gotta hit myself for that.
Quick, give me a boffer.
When I did my scales, that actually did come from China. Like, they were using scale in that period. So I didn't have to actually go too far to actually find a good pattern that matched that character. And I loved Dynasty Warriors for that. So whenever I'm looking at armor, regardless if it's leather, metal, or whatever you want to make it out of, I always try to find some type of historical basis for it. So, because they've already figured out all the harnessing for it, for the most part. They've already figured out how it attaches to the human body.
Oh man, can we talk about the crazy things we do to make armor stay on my body?
That's the main reason I want you here.
Oh, good.
Because you're the one who had the problems with the rivets last year.
We've had a lot of problems with mounting armor to my body with cosplay, and we've figured out some pretty cool tricks through the years.
So, her harness, because of the game, didn't actually have buckles. And whenever you do metal armor, you always try to put buckles in because it makes it easy for someone to get in and get out. But hers didn't, because the game didn't have it. We had a long discussion on, do we put buckles in, not worry about it, or do we stay true to the game and just leave it? I had to Chicago screw her into her armor.
From the inside.
From the inside. And so this is where the game and reality start, diverging. Because I knew the armor piece, where the harness needed to be, so it wouldn't dig into her flesh. It wouldn't dig into her shoulders or her sides or anything like that. But I had to be true to the game because we made that decision. We sit down and again, it's like, I gotta do this, and if I don't do it this way, it's gonna hurt you.
It hurt me anyways.
Oh. But, and I think her exact quote was, if it doesn't hurt, it's not cosplay.
Yeah, that's cosplay. If it doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right. And so I had to spend, 10 minutes, 20 minutes Chicago screwing her into her front and back plate. And then the belt was pretty much stuck to her too, so she couldn't sit down.
I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't sit down.
And then we didn't realize this until 2 days prior. And I had to go to the AutoZone to get a funnel because we couldn't order a shiwi.
Do you guys know what a shiwi is?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Does anyone not know what a shiwi is? A shiwi is you can buy them online. They're for women, so we can urinate standing up. It's basically a funnel that cups your girl business so that you can pee standing up.
That's enough of that. It was really weird trying to talk to the AutoZone guy because I was sitting there buying this and then I was buying that
Matt.
the edging for the door edging and stuff like that. Along with it, and the guy was like, "What type of night are you having?" And I was like, "I'm building something so my partner could stand up." And he just looked at me weird, and he like literally probed me. He wouldn't like let me go. He wouldn't let me go, like pay and like just go and do this, because it's like I knew how, like I literally looked at the website because we couldn't order it in time.
We tried.
We tried. We couldn't order it in time. So I went and did that, and I had to finally tell him what I was doing. And he basically gave me this weird roll the eyes look, sold me my stuff, and laughed at me.
The guy said all doesn't think we're really
Oh yeah,
funny.
because she went in there looking for mothers and
Painter's tape for pinstriping.
and something else, something weird. It was really weird. So yeah, they think we're weird as it is. So, but yeah, it was one of those spur of the moment things that we didn't plan for, and if we plan for stuff now, like what if this happens? Well, that will never happen. But then we usually don't need to plan for
Never
it.
happens. Okay, we gotta watch our time. So.
Okay.
Oh wait, we have a question. Hold on.
What exactly is Chicago screw?
Actually, they're basically the screw rivets.
Okay.
They're screw. Actually, you have one Chicago screw on this pauldron over here, and basically it's a female post with a male screw in it, and it basically it prevents me from having to go and make put real rivets in it and it be permanently attached. It's an easy way of getting armor pieces on and off, especially pauldrons. Sabatons usually have them, which are the foot covers. So, again, let's see if I can get one more. So, I've kind of mentioned a few places to get some of the stuff, like Westbrook Metals. They're a really great place. I love them to death. They are awesome, awesome people. And I know they have a place here in San Antonio. There's also several places that you can get foam. This wonderful gentleman here gave you guys a place here. I don't know, I'm not from San Antonio, so I don't know where you could get some of this stuff. I can tell you Academy has a lot of some of the same foam, like camp pads and stuff like that. If you go to some of the Army surplus stores will have this green camp pad. It's a little bit smoother than the blue foam, and it's a little bit more denser, and it's a little bit nicer for making weaponry or armor. So I will say, do not get caught doing this, please, because I didn't tell you this. Scavenge. Scavenging has provided enough for me to make some interesting stuff, like thin leather, like leather couches people have thrown into the dumpster. I have, you gotta check, make sure it's not pleather. But
Don't tell people to dumpster dive.
Yeah,
dumpster diving is illegal.
it's illegal. Yeah.
If you want to dumpster dive, it's not because.
But I do a lot of scavenging on my own stuff. It's like, well, this would work really well.
One of the things I was really impressed by yesterday when we were judging with other people's props and armor really is when people just use rubbish. When they just find stuff and make armor. Because that's what we do. Like most of the stuff, we just find it, except for like the metal sheets and stuff. But most of the foam and on other pieces, it's rubbish that we just find. How many leather couches have we stripped now from apartment complexes?
3.
3. Yeah, drive around apartment complexes at the end of the month when people get evicted, look for leather couches with a box cutter.
Yeah.
Just now you've got like 3 yards of free leather, man.
Well, okay, so I preface this with I'm a security guard, and a lot of my properties, they'll throw stuff away, and I'll go ask the guy who owns the place, hey, do you mind if I, strip this? And he usually like, yeah, I don't care. Or, it's like, or, yeah, put it away for me, If you could like barter, talk to the guys that actually own the property, most of the time they'll be like, whatever, as long as you don't make a mess, or if you could put it away for me, put it in the bin for me, I'll be grateful. But I usually try to ask if I don't know the person. So I actually got a few places that I go to scavenge because I've already talked to the owners of the private properties, and they say it's okay as long as I clean up and I tell them prior. Because sometimes the trash guy will be like, no, you can't do this, and I'll have to walk away because he can say that. You know, it's like, I don't.
It is technically illegal to take people's trash.
It is technically, unless it's private property, and then the owner can say what he wants. But the trash guy makes a problem. Yes, I'm not gonna deny it, because all in all, I want everyone to be safe. Don't press it. If someone tells you don't do it, really don't do it. You know, don't come back later and do it anyways. But just scavenge. Look for opportunities. Opportunities. You know, it's like one of your friends has an old couch that they're gonna throw away. Go for it. Leather couch, great stuff. Canvas couches actually are good for like armor gambesons and under stuff that you need to carry weight for a lot of armor.
Said which we'll get to.
Yeah.
We still have like 45 minutes too.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
Yeah, we got a long time. Sorry. All right, so again, the scavenging, I loved it, and I still love doing it today. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
We're so punk.
Yeah. Remember, dumpster diving is illegal. Please don't get caught doing it.
If you get caught doing it, you didn't hear it from us.
Yeah. And if you do, at least talk to the guy who owns the place.
Dumpster diving is legal in Xeon. I decree it so.
6 a.m. So, the other place that I get leather from is Tandy Leathers.
We love Tandy.
Love Tandy. We actually have saved so much money by getting the membership card. I would highly suggest if you're going to do anything with leatherworking, that's a large amounts of leatherworking, get their membership card.
It's like $100 a year.
Yeah, it's
but
$100. Yeah.
Our very first purchase, we saved like $250 because of the card.
Yeah. It is worth its weight in gold if you're going to do a lot of leatherworking. Leather is incredibly expensive. It's easy to work with, but incredibly expensive.
And you can share the card with your friends because we only have one membership between us.
Yeah.
And so we go in together with my card, and I bring other friends in with me to use my Tandy membership. So if you cosplay with a big group of friends too, have one person get a card and just bring your friends with you and share the discount around. Because they don't care as long as the card holder is present.
Or you have the card with you. So yeah, leather is easy to work with. Love it, love leather to death too, because it molds really well, it takes forms very well, it takes cutting and tooling very well, it takes paint very well. I actually got a leather quiver over here that I made for her about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we used regular spray paint on that, which was kind of a mistake.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get leather red spray.
Yeah, always use leather paint on your leather. Leather paint actually has more plastic in it. More plastic in it than acrylic does, so it's stretchier and it won't crack. Like what happened with that is I leaned against the wall and the leather bent and the spray paint just flaked off. But the gold that's on there is leather paint, which is why it's beautiful and shiny and holding up. And the leather paint is a little bit more than acrylic, but it also works really good on shoes.
Oh yeah.
Because it's made to flex. Don't paint your shoes with acrylic. Paint them with leather paint.
Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, and there was some English on the bottles for a long time.
English.
Yeah, definitely some crazy English on those bottles, because it went from like French to English, and there's some really weird words came on those paint bottles for a long time. But they're amazingly great paints.
They peel off your hands really good. it just peels right off your fingers.
Yeah, it's so I always wanted to do a body thing with them just to see, but yeah, the leather paints, I go to Tandy's for all that. I do go Tandy's for all my stains for my leather. Those are actually relatively inexpensive. Actually, I was really surprised that most of the leather stains were inexpensive when the leather is like expensively heavy. Wow. But again, if you're gonna do lots of leather stuff, like the Dynasty Warriors you saw a little bit ago, we saved so much, and I would highly recommend that membership because it does save money. And that's a lot of people can't spend a lot of money on cosplay, and I understand that. Doing leather is easy, expensive. On the opposite hand of it, metalworking isn't easy. It's a lot of labor-intensive work, but the metal, for the most part, is cheap.
And the tools aren't that expensive.
No, the tools aren't expensive either.
Aside from the cutting the metal, like whatever you use to cut the metal, because you gotta have something pretty heavy duty to cut it out. But like you said earlier, it's a log and a hammer.
Yeah,
like,
when I actually do my patterns and I get my metal sheet, I'll go over to Westbrook Metals and be like, hey, I need a 4x8 sheet of mild steel and 18 gauge. And they're like, okay, we'll have it we have it in store back here, $70 for 4x8 sheet. That's a plywood-sized sheet of metal, and that's generally enough to make a full helm to Sabaton suit. That's a lot of metal for very inexpensive, and that's mild steel. Unfortunately, brass is expensive. For a 2x3 sheet, I had to spend about $130, and I wasn't happy about that, but I love it anyways.
Did we have to buy 2 sheets or just 1 sheet for this?
We had to buy a long time ago, about 3 years ago. All the brass kick plates in Home Depot and Lowe's were actually brass kick plates.
They're not brass anymore.
They're not brass anymore. And I found that out, sadly enough, making this stuff for the brass, because I had one brass kick plate left from scales from long ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make her crown out of that. And we spent some time and got it all shiny and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get more brass. Well, I guess I gotta go back to Home Depot. I hadn't been there in a long time. And I walk over, I drive over there and I walk in and I was like, oh, brass kick plates. They're $20 a piece. They're 8 by 2. 20 bucks. It's not bad. It's enough what I needed, really. I just needed 2. And I bought them. I didn't even think about it. I was just going off of what I thought of it initially. And walked in, started cutting it out, and I started banging on it, and I'm like, this isn't working like brass should. This is aluminum. Aluminum does not form. It really doesn't. It doesn't gouge well. It doesn't dish well. It will actually separate in the middle of dishing, and it will literally explode. Like not an explosion, but it will blow out. And when I saw that, my heart sunk, and I went back to the Home Depot. It actually says brass kick plates. It doesn't say anything until you read the very fine print in the back. It says aluminum with brass coating. It was sad. So I had to go back to Westbrook Metals and be like, kind of cry to the guy, because they know me well enough now. They cried to the guy, and I was like, I need brass. And he was like, here you go, $130. I'm like, oh, okay. But I made some amazing stuff out of that. The moment I got that brass home, it's cut. I used some Beverly shears, which I would highly recommend if you're going to do metal too. Beverly shears. I used to use a jigsaw to cut all my metal out, a little hand jigsaw. That took forever, and it hurts your hands, and it's really loud. And you go through so many blades, you'll never imagine how many blades you'll go through. So I would highly recommend go to Harbor Freight or wherever and get some Beverly shears. And yeah, Beverly shears. Those things are amazing.
How much are one of these, like?
When I bought the last one set of Beverly shears, it was a little $60, but it wasn't on sale. Generally, they keep them on sale for about $40, $50. But
They make it so I can cut thick sheets of metal.
Yeah.
And I'm not strong. I'm not strong at all. And with that Beverly, I can it's like a hot knife through butter going through sheet metal.
Yeah. Any gauge under 18 gauge steel or any 18 gauge metal, you can actually cut with 10 snips. With this, I can cut with, it feels like I'm using 10 snips with anything from 14 gauge to 18 gauge. Anything above 14 gauge, you need to have an extra long handle for the Beverly shear. They actually do sell them. You can actually just make them, in all honesty, just a longer lever to cut thicker metals.
Get more leverage.
Yeah, get more leverage. But I generally try to stick with thinner metals because they look better, they're easy to form. Thicker the metal, the more work you have to do. So.
I just pulled that up so they could.
No, I love that picture.
In the backyard. That was like the test fitting day.
This was test fitting day.
That was. Can we talk about mounting? Since we're
oh yeah, no. Do you want to talk about mounting?
Mounting is my favorite.
Okay.
Okay. Let me get the mic back. Hi, everybody. So. One of the biggest problems we run into is we build these armor pieces, because we build the armor pieces before we build the costumes usually. He's working on that and I work on the sewing.
Armoring takes a lot longer than sewing.
Yeah, he starts months in advance and I start like 8 weeks before the con. And I turned out 9 costumes for this convention. Yeah, in like 2 months. And so this picture was when we first put everything together. And mounting all the pieces to my body was really complicated. You saw how I had to put the crown on. I actually had to put the crown on and then my wig over the top of it to make it work. That's why I took my wig off earlier. Because otherwise, if I just had a solid strap around the back of my head, it would bobble. So what I did was I got out my gas mask and I looked at how my gas mask went on my head because a gas mask is not gonna come off. and
Oh,
I
yeah,
sort of
for the
emulated
strapping,
the strapping from a gas mask. I was gonna go a little more overboard with like the fabric piece in the back, but it turned out I didn't need to. So this one mounted really easy, but in these pictures, the reason I only have one pauldron on is because at this point, they're just hard pointed to the dress, and the dress has no body to keep them up, so they kept sliding back. So we called on something we learned at Dynasty Warriors, and that you guys saw earlier, is hard pointing the armor to my bra. As a girl, our bras are very well attached to our bodies. They are not going anywhere, especially if you're chesty. And that's what we ended up doing with these, was the Chicago screw goes through my dress and into a special piece that I made that goes around my bra straps that the Chicago screw goes through. Last year when I put on the Dynasty Warriors costume, surprisingly the very first thing I had to put on was the over shrug and the pauldrons, because in my shrug I had sewn cross-back channels that my cross-back bra straps ran through. So I actually put that on and then put my bra on and attached the straps, and then pulled my shirt on, attached that to the bra, and then put on all the rest of the armor. We actually had to thread the armor straps underneath the shrug so that everything was attached to my bra. Like everything was literally riding on my bra around me to keep it in place. But if you're a guy and you don't wear a bra, you can totally build internal harnessing systems, and this is something that we have to do with this costume in the future. Basically attaching suspenders to my pants underneath my garments so that the pauldrons can be attached to the suspenders and to my bra so that they don't go anywhere. They don't move, they don't float, because I can't power walk in the costume, and what's a queen of space without a power walk?
So, well, it's even more funny with the whole suspender idea. That actually happened yesterday. It's like they're staying okay, but every time she kind of went up and leaned forward, they started sliding back. And we're like, literally, how do we fix this? Like literally, while
we were walking to the cosplay show.
Walking to the cosplay show, and she's like, suspenders. Yeah, totally. Just all of a sudden thinking, well, yeah. That would work.
Again, your pants aren't going anywhere. Look at what you've already got on that's not moving. Traditionally, you would use a gambeson,
yeah,
right?
Traditionally use a gambeson or an actual leathering harness. What's interesting about that is because she talked about the girls having already a built-in harness for a bra. Guys don't generally wear those, generally.
Generally, they can though.
But she said gambesons are good ways, or good under harnesses for a lot of hard pointing armor too. Or you could build a actual armoring harness, which actually looks almost like Attack on Titan's leg harnesses that they have all over them. But underneath all your stuff, above your gambeson or above your under stuff, and you'll hard point your Chicago screws or your attaching systems or your holes to put your lacing through.
Hey, can I pause you for a minute?
Sure.
They probably don't know what a gambeson is.
Oh, it's an armoring jacket, basically, that goes underneath all your other stuff and above your undergarments.
So undergarments, gambeson, tunic, armor.
So, quick thing with the gambeson, and mainly because somebody's asked me today about armoring and how I don't get hot in it. When you're wearing lots of metal, when you're wearing a plate piece, and it's chest, shoulders, the arm pieces, the leg pieces, the greaves, which are the shin pieces, and the foot pieces, and the helmet, you get hot. Regardless, 105 degrees out, in Texas sometimes, it's hot, even at 90 degrees. I've watched full people in armor pass out from heat stroke.
I've been around you when you almost passed out from heat stroke in armor once.
Yes, but that's because I didn't do what I'm about to tell these people.
That was at LARP though, it wasn't at a convention, we were fighting all day.
Yeah. So what traditionally they used to do with the gambeson is they'd soak it in water. Like old knights in the medieval days, when they put their gambeson on, they'll find a creek and they'll jump in it and roll in it and get all wet, drenched from head to toe as much as they could. And then they have their squires put their armor over it before they dried out, because the sweat makes convection. So the longer the gambeson stays wet, the cooler you will always be. And my friend Goofy, who mentors me in the armoring, does this every time he puts on his armor. Every single time he will just drench himself in water, regardless if he's going just outside just for a walk in his armor. And that's another thing, if you're if you're in armor, walk in it. Before you ever come to the convention, walk in it.
I had to run in my Dynasty Warriors armor last year. It wasn't fun.
Always test fit your pieces. Walk around. Don't walk around just like your living room. Walk around the block with it. Really. Because the longer, the more you can find out that's going to either fail or how heavy it's going to be. If it's heavy, or if you're doing heavy something, even in Warble, I know some of the Warble stuff gets pretty heavy too, is you may not be accustomed to wearing that much weight. You know, you're just slow and bulky and it wears you out. The more you wear it, the stronger you'll be with it. You'll be able to articulate it. You'll be able to anticipate with it, with that type of weight.
And also where it sticks out, because like my Halon gloves, as you can see in this picture, I knocked myself with these things way too many times yesterday because I didn't practice wearing them.
We also have the permanent chugging crown as well, because every time she took a drink of water, the point of the crown would keep the water glass stuck to her face.
And we get all stuck like this.
Like I always go to give it to a college just to see if they'll nickname it the chugging crown.
We getting that Xeon crunk.
Xeon. So again, I go back and forth. I'm sorry, I'm back and forth with armor. I love armor. I like metal armor is my thing. When she told me I was going to cosplay and she wanted metal armor, I about cried.
And he's only been cosplaying for 2 years.
I've been cosplaying 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
Last year, San Japan, he was technically a novice when we entered. We entered together, so of course they wouldn't run him in novice category. I'm a master. But he literally went from never cosplaying to competing in master to taking best in show, all in the same convention. It can be done.
Yep. A little bit of dedication. If it fails the first time, you will fail at any armory project, any prop project, at least once or twice before you finish it. Do not give up.
Do you remember what I told you during Dynasty Warriors? We were doing the middle of the Dynasty Warriors build. I spent 2 days sanding metal. It was bad. Dynasty Warriors was, oh my God, I don't want to think about how many hours we spent on those.
Hey, you spent on it? I did most of it, and you sanded.
Don't even make me talk about all the applicator on your overtunic.
Oh yeah.
But we were out in the garage and we had just had it, and I was like, dude, you can scream, you can cry, you can cuss it out, you can walk away, you can throw it across the room. I don't care. Whatever you do, just don't quit. And we were crying before we went on stage because we were freaking out about everything staying together. But it did.
There was some last minute miracles too.
Armor is hard, but don't give up.
Yeah, there's some definitely last minute miracles.
That's where the magic comes in.
Yeah,
magic is a legitimate part of armor building.
So don't give up. Seriously, don't give up whenever something doesn't go the way. Go back. If you have to go back to square one, by all means go back to square one. You've learned something prior to that. You really have. You know, you've learned what not to do. Edison, before he made the light bulb, did 100 different light bulbs, and somebody asked him at one point in time, well, why did you fail so many times? Like, I didn't fail so many times. I found 100 ways not to make a light bulb.
And we've had to do it before. Don't ever be afraid to push back a costume till the next convention.
Yeah.
Especially with armor building, especially if it's your first armor build. And we did it with the Hellsing because we weren't able to get them done because we knew if we rushed it, it wouldn't work. And so we went ahead and pushed back another convention, and we were really glad that we did.
Well, actually, I did bring a prop that I'm probably going to scrap and go back to square one anyways, and that's the swing gun.
Yeah.
If somebody...
Can you Vanna White that for me, John?
It is way too bumpy. I mean, it's all foam. Like, I really like the shape and design. I still have all the...
Ew, it is bumpy.
Yeah, it's really bumpy, and I'm really unhappy in how bumpy it is. I tried...
It's also not done.
Yeah, it's not done, and that's kind of why I brought it for a shoot, and I was like, maybe I'll have time to paint the rest of it just for the shoot. I'm not really happy with it. And I don't mind telling people I failed at something that I'm not happy with.
Always keep your patterns.
Always keep your patterns. I actually have every single pattern piece that I made for that in the mock-up already. And I was like, it's a good pattern. And I love the colors.
How much would you pay for this gun?
But I really was just painting it for this photo shoot that we did earlier. And I didn't finish because I didn't have enough time because of all the prejudging stuff. So, it's like, I failed at this gun. And it looks, for most people, from my mind, I like it. For LARP, it would be perfect for LARP. But for me, the way I look at it, it's too bumpy in my mind. And I'm going to go back and I'm gonna make every single piece again. I'm gonna go back and use different sandpaper, I think I have an actual different technique that I'm gonna use for it, which I was testing out on her wand actually. Her wand was a 2-day project. I was surprised on how fast her wand came out. And what I did differently is I took a blowtorch, and you could use a heat gun, and I would prefer you to use a heat gun instead, to take all those bumps off, because it is foam, and it does melt down. And you have to be really careful with it, but it does work. And it takes a lot of that hard ridging, and you can go back over with some more sandpaper and try to make it work out right. Now, that wand, again, was a 2-day project. I've been building weapons for a long time. I was a weapon master for my group, my LARP group, for a long time. And the core of that is actually a golf club shaft, a carbon fiber golf club shaft.
They're really, really light.
Yeah,
like
it's
way
really
lighter than
light.
PVC. Yeah.
It's a golf club shaft, and it's got gray foam, it's got white foam, it's got
Craft foam
on it. I did all the painting in a night, like literally I think it was about 1 a.m. and I was finishing the painting on that.
You weren't even supposed to make that.
Yeah.
That's not even like the wand I'm supposed to have for
No,
she's also building me the final wand. This was just to tide me over for the weekend.
No, we were gonna do Ni no Kuni today, and she was like, I'll just get a stick. Just get a stick, it'll be fine. And I'm sitting there thinking, in the back of my head, I'm like, why?
Because his first wand is just a stick.
But you don't see Swain until you get that wand.
That is true. Swain doesn't come into like
So
halfway through
again,
the
it's congruency, and where I looked at the prop and I was like, well, Swain, her wand or his wand is that whenever he meets Swain for the first time. So I was like, you know what, I could do this, and I could use it as a test platform, and if I fail, we have a backup plan. 20 minutes?
So about 15, or 10, and then you can
So-
take questions.
Okay. Well,
What else was it? What else was
Magic.
there?
Talk about the magic.
Magic.
let's talk about the magic.
Pray to the cosplay gods very,
Yeah.
very hard.
Yeah, the moments before getting in line for Dynasty Warriors last year, there was some magical cosplay stuff going on.
Oh my god.
So
I want to cry thinking about it.
do you mind me telling some of these stories?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
Like, we want a message show, so.
We want a message show, and so I want to break some of the majesty on that. Oh, I have a question right there.
I'm so sorry for having 2 parents arrive and then get their kids, and one of them had a question that she's been dying to ask.
Oh,
Yeah, go.
Sorry.
Sorry.
What's up?
Yes, kind of.
Well, Spartan materials. Actually, I've been researching how to make some Spartans.
I know how to do the peppercorn.
The peppercorn. Okay, so out of everything that I've ever seen out of making Spartan armor, you definitely want to start with a really good base, like good place to put stuff. And I've seen a lot of really good Spartan armor for newbies, just out of regular foam.
Yoga mats.
Yeah,
We saw a couple of those. There was one in the cosplay show yesterday that was yoga mats.
Yoga mats, and just make sure the diamond plating is inside. But the Alphonse was basically yoga mats too,
Which is foam.
which is foam.
At San Japan 2 or 3, I met a Spartan girl who made her entire outfit out of takeout food containers.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. It looked amazing. And the other thing with Spartan armor that I know a lot of people do that we have never done, I did it for my job once, is the peppercorn. And you can actually print out the paper patterns for certain armors like the Spartan armor. You print it out on cardstock and then you fiberglass it. And fiberglass is scary. I'm just putting that out there. Fiberglass is scary. But peppercorn is easy.
I will say once you get the basic shape, take to cut a lot of this foam, I use electric knife or a really sharp handsaw, and then to take all that down, I'll usually sand it down, and then I'll usually use a plastic or rubberized spray to blend all the edges together.
And glue.
And glue. Oh yeah, contact cement. I love super glue on stuff. Contact cement. Let it get tacky. Contact cement. The foam will give out before the glue will.
Let it get
Like,
tacky before you stick it together. Oh my god.
The entire Tegrasword's it's layered, 2 layers of gray foam with a Velara handheld, and all that's put on there with rubber cement, and then plastic coated, layered coated just so that it blends all your seams in, and basically it hides everything that if you do have to have seams, it hides it a lot better. So definitely try to finish foam with some type of covering or coating, like some type of rubberized coating. So I've been told that is my trade secret.
Don't give it away. You guys gotta figure that one out on your own.
I will tell you, it's rubberized coating, and you can get it almost at any hardware, big box hardware store if you know where you look.
And not a lot of cosplayers use it.
Yeah. So
I saw one girl here all weekend that uses our secret technique.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, we can't give it all to you. You'll beat us next year.
But yeah.
Does that help?
Did that help?
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Thanks for the question. I feel bad now. I don't think I answered it right. But that's what I do.
Anytime someone asks how do you make a whole costume in a single question, it's always a very difficult thing to answer from any aspect.
It's like, I gotta think about a costume.
There's so many parts to any costume.
Everyone's gonna have a different idea on how to make a costume. Every single one of you is gonna have a different idea on how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with it.
We could all sit here and talk about the exact same costume, and every person here could have a different way to make it. And every way is right.
Yeah, every way is right. There's no wrong way to making costume as long as it works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's the whole failure factor.
As Tim Gunn says, make it work.
Yeah. So,
Tim Gunn's my hero.
I was actually planning to make Spartan armor next year. Like literally, I started my research about 2 weeks ago for it, and that's actually I just told her how I was going to do it. It's like I build up foam. That's how I do it. It keeps it light. So, what was I talking prior to this?
Magic.
Oh, magic.
Oh, we were talking about the Dynasty Warriors incident last year.
Oh yeah, the magical part of this whole thing. Right before we got in line, when they told us to get in line, we were rushing because we were, it took so long to get her into her armor because we didn't test fit that. We literally finished the armor like 2 days prior. And again, that's where I got all the rules down for it, because we have to test fit everything now, because we can't afford to be to be out of armor for a show. It's just how it's gotta be now.
So we had rushed over there, and the rushing had actually, this is part of the reason we hate glue, 2-part epoxy, we can't stand it. The 2-part epoxy failed on my Sabatons, and my Sabatons, my foot, the pieces that go right here on my foot, were just flapping about. They were just flapping, and we didn't have that much in it. We carry a stage bag for repairs on stage, so we have stuff back there, but we didn't have what we needed. We had some duct tape. And
okay, so part of that is that her Sabaton 2-part epoxy, it held fine in the walk test that she did, which was 5 feet, by the way.
Around my living room.
Around the living room. Why I tell you, don't do it around the living room. Do it around the house. Do it around the neighborhood. But what also happened was she had worn heels to the day before.
Both days. Friday and Saturday, I was in pumps.
Yeah, she was in pumps, and her legs had swollen up a little bit, and her greaves, her shin guards, wouldn't attach anymore at all. They just would not attach, and they kept on popping and coming off, and I had to take, at this point in time, I had to fix while she was panicking.
I was in I want to go home mode. No lie. I was in I want to go home mode.
I actually had to fix it. I would not take no for an answer. This dedication, I've done it. I'm here. I'm gonna walk on the stage regardless of what else happens. I'm gonna fix this right here, right now. And that's actually what I told her. So I went into our stage bag, which has duct tape, super glue, hot glue, but we didn't have a little thing for it. We had a little bit of cordage, but I think someone snagged that prior.
No, I think we left it in the room.
Oh, we left it in the room.
Yeah, because that leads into the sweet part of the
So
story.
I had to make new cordage to hold her greaves on, and I only had a little bit of duct tape left. So I folded it over, and I'm pretty sure you guys seen Mythbusters where they use duct tape and make ropes out of it. That's basically what I did. I made ropes. It was silver.
And my shoes were silver, so.
Shoes were silver. Her leg things were silver, and so it all matched.
You couldn't see it
Yeah,
at all.
no one could see it. Like literally, I'm sitting there freaking. I was like, how do we pull this off? There's duct tape on the stuff. How did we pull this off?
But you could not see it.
You couldn't see it.
And then we had another issue with the knee piece because my knee cuffs were heavy and it kept bobbling forward. And again, this was right before we went on stage because I didn't wear them around enough.
And this is where
for the show.
I think your husband.
Yeah, my husband showed up because I was like, you guys, I'm gonna freak out. What do I do? My husband shows up and he's like, what do you need, honey? And I was like, give me your shoelace. My husband stripped the shoelaces out of his chucks.
Didn't say a word.
No, just reached out and pulled the shoelaces out. Handed me his shoelaces, and I handed to Joe, and he's tying me back together. And my husband goes, "Do you want my shirt too?" Literally, he's about to take the shirt off his back. He's like, "Will this help?"
No, I give that man mad props for being there when we needed him. Mad props.
Have you actually ever built props for Eric? No.
Not yet. Soon. Wait, maybe. Yeah, soon because we're going to be doing some other stuff.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
some other things, and I'm not liberty to tell until she tells me to.
I live with them and I don't even know these plans.
Yeah.
No, again, a lot of the cosplay prop building is late night, looking at something that we've always wanted to do, and we just didn't know how to do it. Like the crown, she had no idea how she was going to do that.
I thought I'd never do this
She thought
costume.
she'd never do it, and I made it happen for her. I made it out of brass. I did everything I needed to do for it, and there's some things that I was proud of, but I had never done before. I knew the theory of, like brazing, which is the welding of brass. I'd never done that before.
I don't like to talk smack, but there's not another HamonCon cosplayer on this planet that's got anything on this crown.
When we were originally talking about it, she was like, I like this crown, but it could be so much better. I think, I don't know what I'd make it out of. And I'm sitting there like, why don't we just make it out of brass? And it's gold. It's goldish, and we can polish it. And she's like, nah, you couldn't make it out of brass. I can't make it out of stuff out of brass.
I got 10 minutes.
All right.
We should let people.
All right, so I made stuff out of brass for her. I love making crazy props for this woman because she sells it so well. All right, so I'm gonna open it up to questions. If you guys got, I can give out as many suggestions as I can to, if you guys got armoring questions or prop building questions, feel free.
She had her
She had her hand up first, the lady in blue.
Okay.
I've heard that you're looking into starting to make like leather-based armors, and it's like the entire armor is just leather. So where would we start with that?
I would.
I forgot something. I forgot to mention that's important to that too. Armor archives.
Did
you talk about armor archives? Okay.
It's like, material-wise, what leather should we start with? What should we look at when we're looking at the leather? And it's like, because there's like.
Cow. That's what we bought.
Okay, so you're looking at medium to thick leather. It's like a quarter inch leather. It's generally what most people use for armor, leather armor.
Is that what we use for the quiver?
Yeah, that's what I use for the quiver. That's the leather. I doubled up the inseams because I wanted the 2-layer effect. Thank you. I would definitely start. It's like with thinner leathers, you have to worry about like moving and puckering. Thicker leathers, you'll have a lot more stability. It's a little harder to work with. I used to use an actual leather cutting knife or leather shears. I actually now use just a box knife and a really steady hand.
Well, and my really nice knife.
Yeah, really nice knives, but that's for special stuff. But do you want to? Does that answer your question, or you want me to keep going?
I don't know if you want to keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
We're just kind of looking for a place where we start, because otherwise
Oh,
we'll just be like this wall.
glazing tools?
For beginners in doing a leather piece, I would choose, I would look at what your reference material, for sure. And I would, if it's a traditional leather piece armor, I would then go to like Armoring Archive, or go look at, leather armoring, like Armor Smiths or something like that with a Y. They do armoring as well, and just kind of look how they did it. And I would start with if you got a full leather piece, I would start with the midsection first, because that's going to take the most leather out of everything. It'll show you where you need to go from there. I usually start from the neck down, and then I do the head last, because I try to match the head to everything else that's on the outfit. So, but yeah, definitely start with the midsection first. Now probably go 1/4 inch leather, half a cow hide.
I have something to add.
Okay.
If you're going like to just start too, and like this was one of the scary things for me when he started introducing me to leather, is there are a lot of tools involved, specifically the lacing tools to punch the holes, the grommets, the Chicago screws, everything to punch all the different sized holes that you need, the chucks and dies for putting in rivets. The guys at Tandy are super helpful, but there are a lot of little tools. They're not too expensive individually, but you do need a lot of little tools to work with leather besides a big sharp knife when it comes to putting them together.
Yeah, I will say this about Tandy's. Their employees are well versed.
And they're very cosplayer friendly. They love us in there, and they always ask what con we're working on, and there's lots of other cosplayers that go to Tandy. So like, don't feel weird going in there being a cosplayer. They're super cool with us.
Yeah, they actually do classes. They really do. They actually do classes. Some of the LARP groups in the area will go into Tandy Leather and do a class for them every once in a while. Some of the employees actually are LARPers or work the Ren Fair, and they do leather working too. And most of them are lovely to work with, and just ask them pointed questions like, hey, I got this, show them a picture, and I'm like, that's really cool, let's do this, this, and this. So that's where I'd actually start, is probably at the store, and just talk to somebody one-on-one, unlike a panel, but one-on-one, and you can get some real feedback on because I would personally start with the midsection with the 1/4 inch stuff, and depending on what it looked like, I would probably layer it. But without actually seeing what you're doing, that's all I can really tell you. And if you could show it to somebody like Tandy's or somebody that works with leather, like one-on-one, you'll get a lot better, and it would be a lot easier.
Okay, next question.
Next question.
Oh my God, there's so many.
So I'm gonna.
Okay. In the middle, in the center middle with the glasses, that dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you like seal foam and finish foam?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, that's our secret. No.
When I finish foam, I usually, once I cut it all out and I get it glued together, or individual pieces before I paint it or do something, cover it with something, I usually go and treat it like metalworking, and I start with low grit sandpaper for shape, and then I start going further and further up the grit scale, and it's about 400 or 500 grit, and then. I said before, there's a rubber coating spray that you can get at box stores. Again, I've been told I can't talk about that.
That's
as far as I can tell you, and I can tell you right now, if someone asks you about it, if you ask about it, they'll probably know what you're talking about.
I'll tell you what we're not telling you.
Yeah, because I want to make it easy.
Sorry, we got to keep some of ours.
But yeah, once you get that rubberized spray, a couple of coats, and then let it dry.
And then primer.
Then primer.
Primer.
All right, so
Oh, this guy in the front had his hand up a lot.
yeah, in the front.
How would you go about making a open face full head helmet though? Like what would be the best?
We're not real sure about that.
The thing is being an armor and working under Goofy as long as I have, he actually has a forge, an actual real life forge. You're talking about raising a helm, and I can cold forge a helm, like old European style, brim helmets, and they usually have the band down the middle and sides and all that. You basically dish quarters, and then you basically dish it all that, and you can make a loaf box helmet, which is, like Monty Python's Black Knight. That's a loaf helmet that the Black Knight's wearing. You can make that at a cold forge. It just takes a little bit of dishing and time, and just some really good planning and bulk habits. But if you're making a full-fledged helm,
That helmet right there, right?
yeah, basically that's a loaf helmet.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Foot soldiers would actually wear that one, and the ones that come up and down and pointed nose were really for jousting. But anywho, but you're talking about hot forging. I do cold forging. Unfortunately, I have not progressed to hot forging yet.
We are doing helmets in one of our next projects, but I think we're gonna go with thermoplastics, which
Yeah.
we know nothing about yet.
Well, my mentor's got a lot of stuff, and that was actually something I was going to mention now. He's going to help me make those helmets.
Ooh,
Like, he's going to show me how to do it.
my nightmare reality helmet is gonna be amazing.
Yeah. So, I'm about to learn a lot of hot forging, but from my understanding my theory understanding what I've seen and what I've seen this band do is it's basically reverse dishing. You'll take the metal rounded spike, you'll put the metal piece that's been cut out in the pattern into the forge, heat it up to about rose orange, where you're gonna go, you put it on the metal spike and you hammer around the spike and not on it. And it basically makes this really awesome dome shape. And it's raising, if you're doing a face, open face and stuff like that, you would actually cut that in a specific way. And that's on Armoring Archive too. And you either basically cut the helmet in half and use the forge to forge weld it. And that line would completely disappear once you forge weld it into that helmet. So you could do that, and there's some patterns on armoringarchive.org for that. And I'm always amazed when he makes a helmet. So did I help? Cool.
Okay.
Next.
Off in the back.
Off in the back.
Way in the back.
Way in the back.
Yes.
Project, please.
Have you seen The Edge of Tomorrow?
The Edge of Tomorrow. No, I have
Wait,
not.
wait. That's the one with Tom Cruise in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and the Full Metal Bitch, right? That's the right movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, it's from a movie.
It's really good. I was wondering because I haven't really made a suit yet. That's what I'm hoping to do for next con. Because I've done sewing and all that. And I've done
The big exosuit?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm envious.
A lot of foam.
Yeah, I would definitely go foam with that one.
It's a mecha exosuit. So.
Yeah, actually, doing prejudging, there was a big, a big sister and a little sister, and her leg pieces were very articulated in that type of fashion, and she used foam and cardboard for that. I actually thought it was a knee brace that she had taken apart and separated.
It was rubbish.
It was all rubbish. It was all stuff she scrounged around. But how to best phrase this? I've completely gone crazy. Okay, so the main point is I would go cardboard foam. Look where definitely your harnessing is going to be. Like you most likely, I've seen the trailers for it, and it's actually something I'm gonna watch sometime this week.
It's really good.
I'm jealous that people have seen it before.
Torrent man.
So yeah, it's almost a
It's
dark
cool.
read
Yeah,
time.
he's taking the stuff up to the room.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
So does it help you want to get?
Yeah, because I've never built it before, so I wasn't necessarily sure. Should I just go straight cardboard or?
I would never go straight cardboard. Never go full. Never go full cardboard.
Never go full cardboard.
You'll have no structural support. It'll crumple when you're
Yeah.
walking around in it.
Yeah, once it gets wet, it's done.
Yeah, like you can use cardboard in the base, but I would go like I know that movie, so I would go with a lot of foam base. But what I would do again is build a mock-up in cardboard,
Yeah.
so that you can make sure that it's going to work. Because again, you're going to be moving around in it. You're going to be bumping into people. Like cardboard's not going to hold up. But the biggest thing that I think is important is breaking each piece down individually on paper first.
Yeah.
Get some graph paper out and start building your patterns in miniature, and then start cutting it out of cardboard. Build the whole suit in cardboard, and then decide what you're going to make it out of with the foam and plastic, metal, whatever, to make sure that it all load bears properly.
Yeah.
So That's,
No, yeah,
Cool.
I
I think we gotta go. I know that you and the Green Wing had a question too, so.
I just wanted to ask real quick, you said plastic was really hard to work with. What are some of like the major hurdles and how you get around that?
We don't know.
Yeah,
We haven't worked with
The
thermoplastics
reason
yet.
why we haven't worked with thermoplastics is actually, I'm afraid of it.
I know
I'm
Kydex,
actually
and
afraid
that's
of it.
about it. I used to make holsters out of Kydex, but that wasn't for cosplay.
No, I'm actually afraid of it because I've seen some, I'm afraid of the heat gun. Even though I weld and I have to worry about welder's burn, I'm actually afraid of the heat gun for Warbler and for thermoplastics, but I'm gonna have to get over it, and that's one of the things
There was a panel this weekend specifically on the thermoplastic
Yeah,
building.
Mika Nicole, our other
Other judge.
the other judge that was Harlequin, she actually works with thermoplastics all the time. She's really wonderful with it. She's actually got a couple of costumes that are coming up that would be amazing. And she does panels and talks about thermoplastics more than I do. I'm more of a metal guy.
And there's not a lot of metal anymore at the cons, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm very surprised in how many people come out, that's real metal, really? It's like, yeah, why not? It's easy. Well, it's easy for me. I don't mind.
Oh, we still got 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I'm handing, if the other panelists gets in here, otherwise, I'm handing y'all 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we're good.
Cool.
5 minutes is good.
Well, then we can take one more
Yeah,
question.
we take another question.
Does anybody else have any other questions, or should we just call it? Okay.
Oh,
What's
I
up?
worked with Buckram.
Buckram.
That's the base they use for making hats and some other things, kind of like
I use Peltex in my hats.
Peltex.
Yeah, Peltex is a double fusible craft interfacing that's used for making fabric bowls. I don't know if you guys saw it a couple years ago. I've done the Great and Powerful Trixie. You could probably pull that up. From My Little Ponies, and she got a big witch hat. I used Peltex in that because it's double fusible. So you could fuse it to both sides of the fabric of the hat, and it's really, really rigid. It's still bodily, but it's a lot. Go down to pictures. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know about Peltex. Go to albums, honey. I discovered Peltex working in the fabric store. And like I said, it's for making crafts of ornaments and stuff. But it works really, really great in making big rigid hats. And I've had that hat for 3 years now. And when these pictures were taken just recently. So the brim's a little funky because it's so old and it's been shoved in my closet. But it's 3 years old and that brim still looks really good. And that whole hat is just Peltex and cotton fabric that I embroidered on my machine.
How do you spell it?
Peltex. It's in with the interfacings. It's really thick and it's got the fusible dots on both sides. And that's how I did that hat.
It's really good for tall collars too.
Yeah, I used a lighter weight Peltex in his cone of shame for the captain from Helsing that has that great big collar. I also used part of it for the base in the Captain Global collar, because Captain Global from Robotech has that collar that comes up and back down again. And to make it stand up straight around here, I put a Peltex band in it, and then used really heavy duty interfacing for the rest of it. Because if I had Peltex the whole thing, it would have just stood up like this tall. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been silly. So.
Any other questions? You?
What's up, Grant?
What material would you make a sword out of? Like the best material?
Most of the swords I make, again, are foam. I use gray foam, or Nike foam is what a lot of my friends call it, but it's gray foam.
Contact cement.
Contact cement and a non-metallic wood core.
Or the golf club.
Golf club is carbon fiber or fiberglass cores is generally what I use. 1 for light, 2 for strength for those cores. But the foam, you get the foam in pretty much any real box store that has, like camping equipment and stuff like that. And you can make some really nice fine blades. You always cut the center part out and make a slot for it and glue that in with the core, and it makes it really rigid. And you can then shape your. Basically, I make all my weapons in block form, and then once I get the core in it, I shape the weapon out of it using my patterns. And then I'll go in and a little trick that I learned here recently is if I take my metal grinder on a lot of this foam, I can actually grind my edges like a real sword.
So it actually comes to a tapered point.
Comes to a tapered point, and it looks rough. And then I'll hit it with like probably a 300 grit sandpaper just to get it a little bit smoother. And then I'll finish it off with, you know, the rubberized spray. You again?
And how do you do the golf club part? Do you just screw it?
Well,
No,
this,
just cut it.
no, wait, no, let me finish.
Okay.
This is part of the scavenging thing. The golf club, you can go, we used to be able to go to Goldsmith and be like, hey, can we give all your broken clubs? And they were cool about that for probably about 2 weeks. And then about 600 LARPers came in a week asking for it. And they basically told us no. So then we found, was it Goodwill or some of the thrift stores will have, people will throw their golf clubs into the bag and stuff like that. That's why I say non-metallic or wood. Those graphite clubs, I just cut the heads off. I buy it for like $2 and just cut the heads off, and I'll take the grip tape off of it, you know, cut the grip tape off of it. And that's how I get my golf club shafts.
Okay, we got the wrap it up signal,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no, I saw it, and I
Okay.
wanted to finish the question.
Cool.
I want to appreciate you guys for coming to my panel. Thank you so much. Sorry, I kind of rambled on today. Hopefully you learned something. I feel very much love in this room.
If you guys want cards for our
If you want
Facebook and Tumblr pages where we post our build blogs, I've got those available up here if you didn't get one earlier. And
Yeah,
thanks for coming out, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. With the build blogs, I do a lot of close-in pictures of all my armoring stuff, and you can get a hold of me there, and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can if you want to ask questions.